Hi, everybody. Happy Tuesday. I'm Natalie Bott, and this is It's All Light. Today, I am so excited. We have a very special guest, Mrs. Julie Balkman.
Hello, hello.
She is phenomenal, and you're going to be blown away. She is very knowledgeable. And Julie, what are you passionate about? Does everyone get to hear from you about today?
Oh, I'm passionate about helping people get out of the dating game and into a real relationship that lasts.
That's amazing. And I think we all need that if you're single or if you haven't had lasting relationships. So I can't wait to dive into this. But let me first introduce Julie a little bit so you can know a little bit about her and her background. I have her little bio right here that she sent me, and it's just fun to get to know about Julie. So she is from California and Seattle, or she lives in Seattle and California part time, and she was an expert panelist for the dating app. And then she's the owner and operator of interviews project, which we'll hear more about. And she used to co-host an international young adult support group and has 8 years of life coaching experience. So she's a certified life coach, trained and mentored by 3 coaching programs. And she really is just passionate on helping young adults and adults get out of that dating game and into a real relationship that lasts. And yeah, so Julie, I want to hear from you though. Tell us a fun fact about yourself, a favorite Christmas tradition. I want to get to know you better for our listeners.
Favorite Christmas tradition is I don't have one. I have a love-hate relationship with Christmas,
Ooh.
meaning that I love the music and the lights and the candlelight ceremony and all of that, but I also hate the pressure and expectations of Christmas.
Mm.
So each
Which have a
Christmas
lot.
holiday, I have to really gear myself up and, like, embrace the part that I love.
Yeah, I think that's important too.
Yeah?
I love Christmas, and I think part of that is just because people tend to be happier and have a spirit of giving, and I think that's my favorite part. But yeah, when I start thinking about expectations and yeah, things like that, I can see where you're coming from. But
Yeah.
well, any other fun facts you want to share with our listeners to get to know you?
Oh, fun fact, last year at Christmas time, uh, I was challenged to do a drawing project. I am
Oh,
an illustrator/artist, slash artist,
wait, I did not know
and the
that. That's amazing.
drawing project was a month of scum during the month of December, and so we were drawing things, this group of us, Halloween type themes during Christmas.
Whoa.
And I realized something about myself that it was like the perfect distraction for me away from the things that I feel pressure around when it comes to Christmas time. I
Oh.
was drawing things like demons and ghouls and
Oh
frogs
my gosh.
and just bizarre, funny things. And it was like the perfect outlet for me to be drawing those types of things during the holiday season. And most people thought that it was very weird, but I had a really great time doing the drawing challenge.
I love that you did your passions and followed what felt true to your heart. I love that because I am
Yeah,
complete opposite and I don't
I
love
didn't
Halloween.
even know that was in my heart.
Right? That's why we have to explore and see where we feel inclined to and what inspires us. Well,
Mhm.
fun. Okay, a quick outline for the rest of the episode. We're going to talk about some common questions that Julie has come across and then what inspired Julie's passion for this 100 interviews dating project, as well as Julie has just the most helpful tips and so much knowledge from all her research and has helped design this amazing outline and helpful principles for us to learn and take into. So, what inspired this program, or not program, this, what do you call it? Campaign project?
Oh, yeah, the interview project. After I certified as a life coach, I got myself a business coach.
Hmm.
And she was asking me what my niche was. And I said, I want to coach young adults about dating. And she said, well, why don't you find 10 young adults and interview them about dating? And I thought, 10? That is so many. And I interviewed 10 and I loved it so much. I kept going. I set a goal for myself to interview 100 young adults, and I ended up interviewing 120 because I just
Wow.
couldn't stop. And those interviews were conversational, face to face, typically lasted about an hour. And I asked 10 questions.
Do we get to hear those questions?
Sure, if you want.
Yeah, I'm actually curious. We can all be
Okay, here
thinking
we
about
go.
them too as we dive into our what we
Yes.
learned. Yeah.
So the first two questions were what I call mandatory questions for the interview. And then all the other questions were optional. So the first two are, what are your biggest challenges when it comes to dating?
Mhm.
Second question, what do you want when it comes to dating? Number three, how do you find people to date? Number four, how do you feel about first dates? Number five, how do you feel about dating apps and social media? Number six, what do you learn from your parents about dating and relationships, which was
Mm.
one of my favorites?
Wow.
How do you feel about breakups?
Mm.
How do you know when you found the person you want to marry?
Oh boy, that's a big one.
Number nine is, do you know of a couple, two people you could name, and you see the type of relationship they have, and you think to yourself, I want that?
Mm.
If so, what are three things you see? And the last one has to do with equal partnership. And I always ask this with a bit of a lead, meaning that I asked, do you want equal partnership? And
Uh-huh.
if so, what does that look like to you? And when does it begin? And then I would lead in to say that I'm asking this question because personally, I feel that the traditional way of dating is unequal in that a
Mm.
man does the choosing, the planning, and the paying, and the woman waits to be chosen, goes along with, and gets paid for. And I don't see that as equal. So I
Mm.
typically would lead with that strong opinion.
Wow.
It wasn't a fair question because I was leading them in a way that I wanted them to answer. And
That it really isn't equal when you think about all that. It's not. That is awesome. I think
yep,
everyone should take these 10 questions and answer them for yourself. And if you type it up, probably email it to Julie too. But because I
yes.
know she loves this. And I want to ask myself all those questions too. So then what happened after all those interviews? What was there's some fun
Yeah,
things
so
you've
after
taken
the
from it.
interviews, I realized that I felt like I had an understanding of the niche and the kind of people that I wanted to coach. And during the
Mhm.
time that I did the interviews, I offered anyone who did an interview 50% off of a coaching package.
Nice.
So I was coaching in the process of interviewing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Then I decided when the interviews were done, I needed to, and I wish I had, known beforehand what I know now about like, measuring the data,
Yeah.
because now I'm going through all of the answers that people gave with my assistant, and we're trying to categorize the answers so that I have some sort of statistical data
Mhm.
to show for each question.
Totally. I feel like I've done that on my own, just dating polls on my Instagram. And
Yes, you have.
and surprise everyone, the whole month of December is all going to be episodes about dating. So I'll have you send in dating stories and we have Julie here and it'll be a fun December dating month just to get you sparked on that, but it'll be as uplifting as we can make it because it is the holiday season and I don't want you depressed and single. I want you to dive into this and realize how happy and joyful it can be in the right not parameters, but in the right mentality. So that's a little background for this month. And I think these questions are so helpful to get your mind thinking about, especially a lot of things we either avoid talking about because we don't want to deal with that problem regarding dating, or we just push it away because it hasn't worked out for us, or there's just so many little things that bother us about dating and it's always talked about, but it's never addressed directly to help solve it. So I'm happy that you're figuring this out and willing to help us and our generation and help us get married, which we all, I think most of us could say we want. So I
Yeah, I
love
have
that.
a question for you, Natalie.
Yes.
What do you think personally, and also, based on the conversations you have with your peers, what is the stigma or the taboo that is associated with dating?
Hmm, that's a great question. I would say the stigma is that most girls would say no one dates, or they go on dates, but like it's hard to actually get into a relationship and date someone seriously. Um, a lot of girls just say, yeah, guys just don't ask us out, or when they do, I'm not interested in them. Taboo, serious relationships, committing, that is big right now. I even just ran into a few people after church and they were exclusive and then they're not. And then it's just confusing because they spend all their time together, but the commitment's not there.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's really big. And I've noticed that in myself as well. It takes me a long time to want to commit in a way and have that faith to go into a direction. But
Yeah.
yeah, just the stigma is that something's not right. And a lot of people know it. And we get excited for when it does work out for our friends that find someone and get married. I think the other stigma is just people want something so natural with someone that if it's not that way the first few dates, they don't even try.
Right.
Um, but yeah, that's from my outlook and perspective. But yeah, I like that question.
Yeah, me too. Dating. In fact, I should call the title of my book about the dating interviews,
Hmm.
Dating, a Sensitive Subject.
Honestly, I mean that's the truth. It is for a lot of people. I
Yeah.
can't count how many memes I saw about Thanksgiving and people asking, "Who are you dating? Are you dating anyone? Or why are you still single?" You know, like all the TikToks and reels made about that, and it was like sounds like Halloween. Like my worst nightmare is people asking me, "Are you dating anyone? Are you single?" But luckily for me, I feel like the more I've dove into this and studied it, the better perspective I have on dating, and
Yeah.
honestly more hopeful. So, how would you define dating?
Oh, I love my definition of dating.
Mhm.
And I really emphasize that I came up with this definition for one reason, and that is that I have found in the LDS culture, most young adults feel like they have to date, or they're supposed to
Mm.
date, or they should be dating. And that frame of mind is like low motivation, low energy, and not fun. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And so, what I like to do is invite people to step into the freedom of choice, and rather than feeling like you have to date or you should
Mhm.
date. How about, do you want to date? And is this something you really desire? And in order to know if you desire this thing, you need to know exactly what it is that you're choosing and that you
Oh,
have the
yeah.
freedom to choose that. So I came up with the definition of dating. Every person can define dating however they want. This is how I define it, to help me people make the decision to step into it rather than telling themselves they have to or should do it.
Yeah.
So my definition of dating is being willing to potentially no, being willing to take the risk of potentially getting hurt and or looking like a fool for love.
It's beautiful. Is it me and the boy I'm dating have talked a lot about that definition because Julie came and spoke to our award, and you mentioned that, and we've brought that up multiple times as we've been courting each other. And it's so true. And I think that's why dating can be scary because we might get hurt, we might look silly. Like
Yeah.
that is just a risk we have to take in order to get where we want to go. It is risky, but I love the more you'll learn about Julie and what she's learned and studied and her thoughts, the more you'll realize that it doesn't have to be as scary as you think it is, which I hope everyone can be uplifted in this dating sense. And yeah, there's a lot in dating and we're going to break it down. So, when you're going out to dating, what are two things you should look for in a potential partner? Like I guess first step is who to date, right?
Yes, yes. And I would like to point out that if you are looking for two things in a potential partner, the only two things that I think matter outside of your preferences, requirements, and deal breakers, you start with you because you are a potential partner. And the two things that I
Mm,
say to look for in a potential partner are found in 3rd Nephi 9, broken heart and contrite spirit. And I call that willing to be wrong and willing to learn.
mm.
Am I willing to learn how to be in a real relationship? Am I willing to be wrong? And I don't know if you want me to go a little bit into each of those and like what that means.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, what does that mean, willing to be wrong?
Mhm.
So I just wrote out a few examples. One of them is an obvious one. Like if you make a mistake, you can say out loud, I was wrong.
Yeah.
Another example that is expecting someone to change or do something differently. Uh,
Mm. That
usually,
that
what was
had
that?
I said that's very applicable. That I've noticed that in my past for sure.
Yeah, and people are like, "Well, what's wrong with that? Is that wrong wanting someone to change or do something differently?" Well, it's wrong in the same way that 2 plus 2 is 5
Mm.
is wrong. It doesn't add up because you're wanting something that is not reality.
Wow. Yeah. It's true.
Then another example is like, you're wrong when you are on the field of death where everybody dies. Examples of being on the field of death have
Huh.
to do with like someone who's trying to drive home a point, justify, defend, explain, and be right. And
Mhm.
usually, when you go onto that field of death, you're in a conflict mode.
Yeah.
And some people would rather be right than happy, so they'll invite you onto the field of death so they can be right and feel powerful.
That yep. I think we can all either we've noticed that in ourselves sometimes or we know people like that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just it's a relationship killer.
Mm. And then willing to learn. I love that.
Willing to learn. Yes, so anyone who's here and listening to this and they're at all curious and they're staying on your podcast, that is an indication that they're willing to learn.
Mm.
And that you are dating someone who wants to talk about the definition of dating, that means you have someone who wants to learn more and they want to learn how to do that with you. It's the ultimate compliment.
Mm. I love that. And I've noticed myself the more I tap into being curious and wanting to learn, the better off I am. I feel like the biggest person I have the problem with on being right is my mom. it's hard to take it's hard to take advice from her sometimes because I'm not willing to be wrong with her because I'm like I'm old enough to make my own decisions. I mean, for 10 years now it's been that way, so it's like
Yeah.
my mom gives her unsolicited advice sometimes and I think it's more of a me problem than it is a her problem. And the more I see that and realize that I could be wrong, the better our relationship gets. But it's still just an ongoing thing I'm working on, but it definitely relates to all my other relationships though too cuz this boy I'm dating, I don't want him to see that how I treat my mom and I want to be able to treat my mom the way I treat him, you know? Like my dad always shares a funny story about my mom's the oldest of 8 and when they were dating, maybe engaged, they were at my mom's house and she was like kind of being bossy to her siblings or something happened and she turned to my husband or to her husband then and was like, "Oh, I'll never treat you that way." And he's like, "It's a lie." Like how she treats her family is how she's going to treat you. So, I've been working on that, but I love these two definitions in a healthy relationship. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. And I love life coaching around relationships where it's like there's one certain person in my life
mhm.
that I will go onto the field of death with because that's what we do.
Yeah, and it's amazing though when you come out of it though, because there are the
Yeah.
upsides of that relationship with my mom that I mean, I of course love my mom and there's great things too, but when I remember to just be humble and learn and realize that she does have experience, she's lived 25 years more than me. Like if I just can get my brain to that point, then it's such a better conversation. So, thank you. I love those two potential things to look for in someone and to recognize in yourself. What thoughts do
Yeah.
you have? I see you thinking, Julie.
I am thinking, is your mom going to be listening to this podcast?
Yes, sometimes she listens to them. She's slowly making her way through, but yeah, she knows. We talk about this a lot.
Yeah, well, this applies to you and your mom. There's 4 questions you can ask yourself before you open your mouth in any given
Mm.
situation. Would you like to hear the 4 questions?
Of course, I'm like on the edge of my seat.
Yes. Okay. So I'm just off the top of my head. Does it matter?
Mm.
Is it any of my business? Can I say it lovingly? And can I hear it lovingly?
Mm.
Those 4 questions, if you answered no to any of the 4, you keep your mouth shut, and it has changed my relationship with my kids. Like,
Wow.
wow.
I'm going to write those down. I'll put those in the show notes because I think, like, for me, those are so key. And I, most of the time, do not think before I speak. It's my very bad toxic trait. I just say the first thing that comes to my mind. And it
Yeah. Well,
can be
join
good,
the
but
club.
but I
Yeah.
love those 4 questions.
Yeah. We'll not be perfect at those 4 questions, but if you even use them once, it will be helpful to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much. Okay, back to dating. Thank you for
Yeah.
that tangent about relationships with your parents. But what are so we went through the potential. Next step is things to do when you're on a date. Like what do we need to be focused on when we're out with someone?
Yes. So I talked to a lot of people about dating.
Mhm.
And oftentimes they're like, I'm looking for a word here, scared, insecure, nervous, feeling like they're inexperienced or they
Yeah.
should know more about dating than they actually do.
Hmm. Yeah, I could see
So
that.
I offer 3 things to do on a date, and that is practice, practice, and practice. The first practice is practice showing up loving. In other words,
Mm,
you're capable of loving.
yeah.
I talk about the most dangerous way to date is when you don't feel loved and you're dating to find the love, like you're an empty vessel and you're just looking for someone to fill your love bucket, and
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
needy and you're not really capable of being present and getting to know another person because you're so starving for what that person might have to give to you.
Mm.
So I call
Wow.
it the difference between if you go on a date and you want to show up lovingly, it's the difference between I care how you make me feel versus I care how you feel.
Mhm.
So if you can get yourself even during like 5 minutes of a date, next date you could even try for 10 minutes of just being in a space where you can be present with a person and not being consumed with the feeling of I just need them to like me.
Or like, how does my hair look? Or am I doing this right? Or am I doing this right?
Yeah.
That's focused on you when you should be looking
Yeah.
at them and thinking about what they're thinking and
So
feeling.
it is normal to focus on you. So, I don't expect anyone to go on a date and be like, "Oh man, I totally screwed up because, I was focused on me for half an hour and the
Mm,
date was an hour," whatever.
yeah.
But just the thought, like entertaining the thought that if I were to show up loving as a loving human, how would that be versus someone who's hungry and starving for you to like me or love me?
Mm. It's a night and day, I think. Yeah.
And then the second practice is practice dropping expectations. And this is my favorite one because it's
Mhm.
directly associated with disappointment.
Yep.
And I think everyone knows what it feels like to be disappointed on a date, after a date, before the date, or even thinking about dating because we're disappointed.
And our
And that's
expectations.
because we have expectations. And if we can
Mm.
practice dropping, even one expectation, it opens up everything, your heart, your mind, the situation, the time that you're spending with a person. It's totally open to get to know someone and to
Yeah.
actually believe that like this person's doing the best they can and they're worth getting to know, even if I never see them again.
Yeah. I feel like I'm half and half on this one. Sometimes, like, when you say that, I'm like, oh, but what about this, this, and this, and this? Like, I need him to come to my door and get my door. And, like, I have a lot of expectations, way more than I ever realized. But then I find myself disappointed and I associate it with, oh, it was because I was expecting that. And my dad has
Yeah.
always tried to teach me, like, if you have expectations, you're always going to be disappointed. So
Yeah.
I feel like the other half of the time I do try to tap into what you said about like getting to know them and being open to that. But what about, I guess my conflict comes when it's like, oh, but I expect him to get my door. Like, what do you say to that?
I love that. I love, love, love it. It's a good example of something that happens frequently. Oh, well, he didn't get my door. Now I'm disappointed. Oh, well, this person doesn't look like the photo they put in the dating app. Now I'm disappointed. Oh, this person said they're good at rock climbing, and now we're on a rock climbing date and they don't know anything. Now I'm disappointed. So,
Hmm.
what you do in that situation is you communicate and you find out. So, dating is all about making a decision.
Yeah.
If you're choosing my definition of dating, you're taking the risk of potentially looking like a fool or getting hurt for love.
Yeah.
That in the process of that, you communicate and you take on information to find something out.
Mm.
So, what did you find out? Well, I went on the date and I did find out that she's not a rock climber. Okay, well, that's just information. Why do I need to be disappointed about that? It is what
Mm.
it is. She's not a rock climber. He didn't open my door. Well, probably because there are so many mixed messages out there right now for men when it comes to opening a door and not opening a door for a
Hmm.
woman. And it depends on the woman. And so
It
I
does.
would
Yeah.
say that if I were a guy on the date, I would be so scared. Like, is this the person that wants their door opened or not? I don't know because some people are offended and some people expect it. And I'm going to lose either way because if I do it, she
Hmm.
might be offended. If I don't, she could be offended.
Yeah. And I've asked guys who haven't gotten my door, I slip it in just casually, jokingly, and they usually say like, "Oh, I just don't know if the girl wants it or not." So,
Yeah,
so
so
they are being considerate, but
without being casual or hinting, you could just say directly, "It would mean a lot to me
if you open my
if
door,
you would open my door." I like
then
that.
they know, and then it's clear, and there's no guessing, there's no games, right?
No games, yes. If you're
Oh,
being clear, like, let the guy know. He'll be so thankful to know because now he has clarity rather than trying to guess if you'll be offended or not.
yeah. Oh, I love that, and I think that could take us in a whole nother direction of boundaries and being clear and communicating. But we might save that for another episode because I want to keep this to the fundamentals right now. That is a fundamental thing, but just communicate and be willing to learn,
Yeah, so we
and
have
and
practice showing up
and
loving,
yeah, and
practice setting
dropping expectations. And
expectations.
the third, what's the third practice?
Practice having real conversations.
Mm,
The
what does that
kind of
mean?
conversations where you tell the truth about you. The
Mm,
example I used in the presentation was, if you're showing up late to a date and you could give a typical answer like, "Sorry, I'm late. The traffic was bad." Or you could tell the truth, and if this is the truth, it might sound something like, "Sorry, I'm late. I had to drive around the block 3 times because
mhm,
I was so nervous about coming on this date. I had to calm myself down."
mm. Or picking out what to wear. That's usually why I'm late. It's like, oh, what do I wear on this
Yes,
date? To
yes.
impress them, right? It goes,
So, Natalie, you're a good example of telling the truth about yourself and having a real conversation. Like, there's a lot of things, even on this podcast, that you've said about yourself. Like, I'm usually late because I'm picking out an outfit. I like to be right when it comes to conversations with my mom. And that is the space for connection.
mm,
True connection is telling the pieces and parts about yourself that maybe are, maybe you're embarrassed about or you're worried about someone might think of you if you share that.
mhm,
And those are the places where we can all relate to our human frailties. And if someone can't accept those things about you, then, that's your answer. Like, you have information that this person can't accept me as I am, even though I don't necessarily want to be this way and I see room for improvement. I can
mhm.
still tell the truth about it.
Yeah, and the more I date and are in relationships, the more I've discovered pieces of that. Sometimes I think I overshare, and a lot of my friends and family know that about me, but I like putting it in this framework of being you and being authentic and that to connect you need to open those doors and tell the truth. I like how you put that because I think we do try to impress those that we date, And that I don't think there's anything bad trying to be like trying to impress and be, I don't know, on your A game in a sense, but part of that A game is allowing yourself to connect and share those things and have real conversations. Oh, I love that. I have a question for you, Julie. So
Okay.
you told us a little bit about your relationship with your husband, and I loved your story and just how you met him and what that was like for you. Do you mind sharing pieces of that?
Oh, just that I'm married to the man of my dreams. And before I met him, if anyone used the word soulmate, I would roll my eyes and want to spit over my shoulder because I did not believe in soulmates.
Yeah.
And now I do. And I believe that is possible for you and for everyone that I talk to, all young adults who are in the dating phase of their lives. I do feel like that many of them don't believe it is possible for them. They have lost hope, they feel discouraged, and they're starting to go into that place where I used to be, which was, I don't believe in soulmates, or I don't believe that it can happen for me.
Mm. What
And yeah, so discovering that, oh, yeah, soulmate is a real thing and it can happen for me. If it can happen for me, it can happen for anyone.
so what's your definition of soulmate?
Oh, thank you for asking.
Because I think a lot of people would be like, "No, I don't believe in soulmates." Like, it's your choice. You pick and choose, and that's why you date, and you just find someone you want to spend time with. But how would you define it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, there's a lot of ways to define it, and I could take the whole podcast to go more in depth. But I think ultimately, I would choose to say what I believe a soulmate is not,
Mm.
and then go into what it is for
Okay.
me. A soulmate is not someone that has everything in common with you and agrees with all of your political views, your religious beliefs, and your hobbies and interests and passions.
Mm.
I don't believe a soulmate is someone that you need to want to be with 24/7 or there's something wrong.
Mm.
I do believe that a soulmate sees you, like really, really sees you, your fears, your flaws, your mistakes, your weaknesses, and loves and accepts you as you are.
I love that.
Doesn't mean they need to agree with you.
Mm.
But being seen in ways that you actually don't want to be seen, like, you know, when I'm really, really afraid, like I'm afraid of heights. And so in dating my husband, I didn't want him to see what I act like when I'm afraid of heights
Mm.
because I get really weird and I say and do, crazy things. And I
we
thought,
all we all have that thing that makes us act that way, though. Like for you, it's heights. For me, I can't. There's too many to name, but but I do get weird
yeah.
and crazy and silly and yeah. Okay, keep
Yeah,
going.
and sometimes that thing is dating. You just
Honestly.
act weird and say stupid things, and you're there feel like, you're tongue-tied or too much, talking. Either way,
Mhm.
so I knew that when I allowed him to see me in ways that I was embarrassed of and didn't want him to see me, and then found that he could accept and love me in those moments, it profoundly affected me and touched my heart. And I felt that we were heart to heart connected and like best friends.
Mm.
And that I felt safe to be the weirdo, awkward, strange, scared, whatever it is person. And that he could still, you know, like me. He still wanted to know he'd want to know more about it rather than
Mhm.
like roll his eyes and walk the other way. He
Yeah.
was like stepping toward me and asking, "How can I help? And
Wow.
what does it feel like for you?"
Wow. You hit the jackpot, Julie. That's awesome.
Mm. Yeah.
Leaning into it and being vulnerable, opening up. And yeah, when you have someone that can see you for you, it almost feels like they're looking past your imperfections, but it's better than that because they see that and see you for you and love you for you entirely, not just parts of you,
Yeah.
but I mean, part of us is our mistakes and our past and our insecurities and our things that make us go crazy, our craziness.
Exactly.
And to find someone that can see you for those things and want to know more, it really is a miracle. Me and my friends always
Yeah.
talk about how it is a miracle to find someone to marry and date and get married. And I think anything we can do to help that miracle blossom, the
Yes,
better.
yes.
I
And
love
if
that.
you want to find your soulmate, you're going to have to allow yourself to be seen.
Mm. Ding ding ding. Say that again.
If you want to find your soulmate, you're going to have to allow yourself to be seen with your fears, flaws, and mistakes.
Mm. Yeah.
That's how you find people who are capable of loving you, and
Yeah.
not everyone will be.
That also is true. You have to be, I mean, dating willing to get hurt and be seen like a fool. It just goes back to that definition. It really does in all the ways.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I had another question and it just lost. I just lost it. But in the meantime, while I try to remember that question, what do you feel like is the most important value when it comes to dating, and why is it so important?
Uh, when it comes to relationships, I believe the most important value is freedom.
Ooh, freedom. Hmm.
And did you ask why? Why is it
Yeah.
so
Why freedom?
Because I believe that as we talked about soulmates, this is a really great lead in to the word freedom and the value of freedom. Well, I believe that freedom is why we are here.
Mm,
It is the plan. The ultimate plan is to be free, to honor our own choices and those of others. And I think that one of the taboos and stigmas around dating and fear of commitment that we began this podcast with
yep.
has to do with a loss or a lack of freedom. Like, I
Mm,
don't feel free to be myself in this relationship, or I don't feel free to do something on my own in this relationship. I don't feel free to.
be myself, right?
Yes, exactly. So, if we're looking back at that definition of soulmates, it is the freedom to be seen, to be yourself fully and completely. And I feel like that unless you feel free to be you in a relationship, you're not going to feel loved or be loving or be responsible. You're going to find ways to hide or make power plays
Mm,
or basically take the game that you were playing in with dating. You take the dating game into your marriage and you continue to play the game, or
mm,
you embrace freedom. You honor your partner's freedom and you embrace your own. So, my definition of a relationship would be two independent people making independent choices.
hmm.
And you
Yeah.
would think that that is the opposite of like, oh, aren't we supposed to turn
Hmm.
toward each other and become like a team, right?
Hmm.
Well, yes, but you independently choose to be there. It's that same comparison of like people who feel like they have to date or should date or supposed to date. That's not freedom. That's like
Mm.
have to.
Obligation.
Yeah, it's the same thing in a relationship. It's like,
Hmm.
do I want to be here? Can I be here and feel free to be me and free to come and go and say and be?
Hmm. Okay, I remembered what I was gonna say, and I'll keep remembering it. But the most dangerous way to date, you kind of hinted at that, the opposite of freedom, right? And games. Why and what more do you have to say about the most dangerous way to date?
Yeah, the most dangerous way to date, in my opinion, is totally empty. So, someone who is dating, the closest word that I can think of is needy.
Mm,
That's someone who doesn't feel loved, or they think that they cannot feel good about themselves unless they are loved by a certain person.
mm, yeah.
And in their emptiness, they become more desperate and less willing to be independent. They
Mm,
become more dependent or codependent, as a lot of people like to talk about
yeah.
codependency.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, I feel like that the most dangerous way to date is empty, and that when you're starving, you'll take crumbs.
Yeah, that is it is dangerous. That's yeah, I think you hit that on the head, hit that on the nail. Get my phrase right. And the other thought I had was you briefly mentioned this, but you drop your expectations, but that doesn't mean you can't have your preferences, your requirements, and what was the last one? Your
Deal
deal
breakers.
breakers. Yeah, you can still have those because you need to be knowing what you're looking for to find it. And so tell us a little bit about preferences, requirements, and deal breakers.
Yeah, so when I give my dating presentation, I often, at the end of it, invite people to take on two labels to give themselves. One is, I am a receiver of love. And the
Mm.
other label would be, I am a decision maker.
Mm.
And that if I could encourage people more to make decisions rather than be apologetic about preferences, requirements, and deal breakers, because likely they've been accused of being too picky.
Mm.
And what I love most about the young adults who are dating in this day and age is
Mhm.
that they are picky and they have good reason to be picky.
Yeah.
And I don't even like to call it picky. What I call it is, more than any other generation that has ever lived on this planet, as far as I know, is you guys have more information. And when
Mhm.
you know more, you want more.
Mm. Hmm. Does that have to do with, like, the more saturated it is for people dating? Like, I feel like we all think that there's so many people to date that it's overwhelming. There's too many choices, so it's hard to just pick one and try one when you know there's other options. Is that similar? Or is that a
Yeah,
different
well,
topic?
that has to do with the stigma and taboo of
Mm.
dating. But this is more along the lines of you have so much knowledge and awareness because, I mean, you have the internet. You have so much more than any other generation has had when it comes to learning about everything. I mean,
Mhm.
anything you don't know, just Google it, right?
Mhm.
You've got every how-to video on the planet. If you wanna know how to do something, well, Google that and watch a video. Go to TikTok, find out.
It's so true. It's so
And
true.
so what that creates in you is this like, I know what's possible. I'm not wearing blinders here because I see it.
Mm.
And therefore, I want that. I want physical attraction and I want emotional attraction. And I
Mhm.
want to have preferences, requirements, and deal breakers because that helps define who I am and what I want. And
Mhm.
so rather than apologize and feel ashamed because you want those things, actually get really clear with yourself about what you want.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then
Preferences.
don't sit there with your little list like you made a list in Young Women's and you're keeping it, envelope under your pillow, but actually, be realistic and be the adult that you are and step into that
Mhm.
life as an adult. And something I've noticed as a dating coach, that if you're 25 and up, your list of preferences, requirements, and deal breakers has changed dramatically from when you were like 21 or 22.
Mhm. There's a few core ones that are the same, but yeah, I mean, I'm 26 and I definitely have seen how it's changed and what I'm looking for. The more I understand myself too
Yes.
and helping other people feel seen and feeling seen myself, what that looks like. Yeah, but I love that we can still have our preferences and our requirements and our deal breakers because the more you know what you need but not be needy, the better.
Yes, yes, and I love to talk about that when someone says, "Here's what I need when it comes to a partner." And a lot of
Mm.
people love to define it by reading the book that has the attachment theories. What
The
is it called?
attachment styles. I think it's called attached, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that is, someone who wants to be very careful and puzzle it out in their head and figure out relationships.
Yeah.
What's more helpful is to practice. Practice going on dates, getting to know people, practice, practice, practice. Way more helpful than studying attachment. What did you call them?
Just attachment styles, yeah.
Styles.
I
Yeah, yeah,
have
yeah.
I haven't
Like,
read it. I've had friends have read it and told me about it though. But yeah, just go out and do and figure it out. I love that. So there's so many other things that we want to dive into. So we might have you on for part two. But lastly, as we conclude this episode, how do you accelerate dating or step into dating?
oh, love that question. How can I accelerate dating? First of all, when someone comes to me and they're like, I want to sign up for a coaching package because I really want to get into dating, I'm ready. I'm
Mm,
ready to date. Typically, I'm finding that people, and I mentioned this before, and very understandable that they're in this boat of like, they're not believing that it's possible for them.
mm,
So, the first step that I feel like if you want to accelerate and really get into dating is
mm-hmm.
like really embracing the belief that it's possible for you and
Yeah.
building the hope. And that, a lot of people have reasons. Like if you're looking for a reason to be discouraged or to lose hope, you
Mm-hmm.
will find one. Everybody has good reasons to not have hope.
Yeah.
Everyone has a past of pain or disappointment
Oh
or
yeah.
regret or whatever it is. And that, it makes it more difficult to step in again, thinking, well, I've
Mm,
been hurt in the past. What it doesn't help you to dwell there, and I call it a drama story, even though for you, it's very real and you still feel the pain.
oh
I
yeah.
have no intention of discounting anyone's pain because it's there to teach you. But
Mm-hmm.
you've got to start in a place of believing this can happen for me and then embracing your desire. Like, here's the definition of dating. Is this what I desire? And then own it and step into your desire. What will I need to do? Like an example of a coaching client I had recently, she was someone who realized that she didn't really want to step into dating because her whole life she thought of dating equal to desperate. And
Mm,
she did not want to be seen as desperate or feel
interesting.
desperate.
Yeah.
So she wasn't really, like she came to me and said, I want to, really get into dating and accelerate my dating, the dating phase of my life. And yet, when it came to letting go of that story or label of dating, that dating means you're desperate,
Mm-hmm.
then that kind of prevents you from desiring it. Like, why would I desire to be desperate?
Right?
Yeah. And
Change
then
that definition. Yeah.
the last thing, and there's more we could say, but just to wrap it up, a lot of people really scoff at this one, but it's a practical way to accelerate dating. Write down 7 names. And most of you will say, no, 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 I don't know. There are not 7 people out there that I could potentially date. And I will tell you, yes, there is. And you will find
Mm-hmm.
them if you're looking. So put 7 names on a list and start at the top. And then go through what I call the decision making success system with each one.
Yes. You read my mind. I was literally about to ask you this. Okay.
Perfect. We can end with it then, is because this is the end of what I call the dating map, and that is the decision making success system. So you look at the person at the top of your list and you ask yourself, when it comes to dating this person, am I a yes or a no? And then you pick one. I promise it doesn't matter which one you pick, you can still be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Whichever answer you pick, you step into it. So let's
Mm,
say you pick no. Stepping into your no would be going to the next person on the list. Stepping into your yes would be doing a very detailed decision of how you're going to step into your yes. And
mm,
then you do it so that you can find something out. What did I find out? And with the information you found out, you go back up to the next decision. So
mm.
it's sort of this circular way of being on a wheel of progression. Yes, no, pick one, step into it, find out, repeat.
Find out. Step into it. Yeah. The stepping into I've been working on, and literally the past 2 months of seeing this boy, I've been like, okay, like he wanted to date me exclusively. And I was just like, I don't know. I have issues. I have commitment issues. I don't know why I'm not doing this. But I was sitting in this maybe, not a yes, not a no. And And that drives everyone crazy. And
Yeah.
it's not bad to take your time to figure out if you want to date them. That's something that was my excuse, so to call, but I wanted to be sure and not just jump into something because it's there, like to be committed. I wanted that to be my choice and to feel ready for that. But I've
Uh-huh.
also learned about myself that like sometimes you're not ready and just need to do it to get ready in a sense. Like no matter how many times we tell ourselves like, "Oh, wait until this or wait until this." Like sometimes that's never going to happen. You just have to do and make that decision. So, just yeah, I chose yes, I'm going to try this and then I'll find out information and then have to make more decisions and it is that daily decision, and the more you get to know
Yeah.
someone and have faith getting to know someone and stepping into a committed relationship, like it's definitely scary and I'm trying to lead by example, everybody. Just do it.
Yes, you're doing it. You're doing the
Because
decision-making
yeah,
success system, and you're finding something out, one decision at a time.
yeah. And my mom always reminds me, like, do you have fun with that person? Do you enjoy being with that person? Can you be yourself around them? Can they be themselves around you? And then just go from there. Like, I think we really do overcomplicate it a lot. So I'm gonna
Yes,
hurry and just
you know more.
yeah. What's kind of I know this is like a super big question because you've done so many dating interviews and this is your life, your job, your career. But what is just an uplifting takeaway you personally have gotten from doing all of this?
Oh,
I
wow.
know it's a very broad question, but maybe the
Yeah.
first thing that comes to your mind.
Oh, the first thing that comes to my mind is, my personal mantra, which is happiness is now, right
Mm,
now. And it is a practice of most people like to call it gratitude. I feel like the use of that word has gotten so, cliche that,
mhm.
happiness is like beyond that. It's a practice of intense gratitude, and it's literally stopping in the moment and considering what is there to be happy about right now.
Intense gratitude. Oh, I love that. I At work we had a culture meeting and it was on a video about gratitude. And I liked it because it wasn't as cliche because it took it to the next level and had a method of stop, look, and go. You have to make room in your life to stop, look around, see, be present, be in the now, and then make something of it. Like take the opportunities. So
Yes, yes, and I
I love
feel that
that.
a lot of people are working to attain something in self-improvement mode when I would invite them to consider that happiness is right now and love is all around you at all times. And it
Yeah.
takes some tuning in and a decision to receive it.
And believing that it is there. Like you said, when you look for something bad, like you'll find it, it's there. But when you look for something good, you'll find it, it's there. Oh,
Yeah.
there's so many good pieces. I'm going to pull these quotes and make cute templates for our social media because I just can't wait for people to listen to this episode. And if it's anything like my first dating episode, that had the most listens. So, everybody, I hope you're listening and enjoying this as much as me and Julie are because we love talking about this. And I'll post where you can find Julie, her Instagram and her contact information because this is her profession. So if you do want help, I highly recommend Julie. I have been so inspired. This is my second time hearing these things and I could hear this over and over again. Like we could talk for hours about this. So, maybe if Julie's willing to come on again, we'll have her on again because we could dive deeper into these things and I love your mantra and I love ending with that. Happiness is now and she's giving you so many helpful tips to step into dating. And I hope you try those 7 people on your list. Or if you're in a relationship now, what decisions are you making and how can you evaluate them? Are you being vulnerable, making those real connections? Oh, it just is so good. What's your final words as we wrap up? I
Oh, my final words would be an invitation to Natalie Baugh to
Oh no.
record a podcast with me where I coach her around her fear of commitment.
Ooh. I am in. I'm down because I do want to tackle it. It is so scary for me. And and I need that in my decision-making life as well. Everyone, I bring this up every episode. It's something I struggle with. So I'm 100% in, Julie. We'll get that on the
Awesome.
calendar.
Okay.
Thanks again so much, you guys. And if you are in your ward and you want Julie to come speak to your ward, um either in Seattle or California, or she came to Utah for us. We are so grateful that she came and spoke to our ward. It was so enlightening, and I hope this podcast can get to even more people. And yeah, I'll leave all her contact information in the show notes. Thank you again so much, Julie. I hope you
Yeah,
enjoyed this
thank you.
episode and
I
have a
did.
happy, happy day. And happiness is now. I love it. Thank you so much.
Yay. Okay,
Okay,
thank
see you
you.
later.
Okay.
Bye.
Alright, bye-bye.